Okay, so welcome to Faith and Calm class number 174, our Sukkos class. In our Sukkos class is going to talk about simcha, because joy, because that's what the Torah refers to Sukkos as, the time of our celebration. And the question, I guess, is I heard it this year. It was a great question. It says, so why are we so happy on this holiday? We have other holidays. We have Pesach. We got out of Egypt. We have Hanukkah. We were saved from the Greeks. We have Purim. We were saved from the Persians. There was Shavuos. What happened on Sukkot that we're so happy? In history, on the 15th of Tishrei. What happened? And the answer is, there's nothing there. There is no event that happened in that particular day. So
can I guess, or I shouldn't guess?
Go ahead, guess.
I know the answer.
Well,
I mean, maybe one of the answers.
Oh, you went to his class.
No, I just learned it a long time ago, and it makes sense.
Okay.
Just that we're still so happy that we made it through Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, and Hashem forgave us for all our averas, and that's plenty to be happy about. And it says year after year in the Daf. It's not just that you forgive us, but it says Shana v'Shana, year after year. That's enough to be happy about, right? That's not the answer.
Yeah, that's good. It's good. It says I'm going to add a little bit more from a different angle, but we'll see. Maybe this will make it more solid and so forth like that. So what is we would saying here? So let's back up. There's a holiday. The things are called Simchas Beis Shueva. The holiday it's the celebration of the pouring of the water. And so people learn in the Gemara and Sukkos, they learn that what would happen would be that whole year round, whenever they brought an offering on the altar, they used to pour wine on the altar. On Sukkos, the day before, they would go down to the Shiloach Springs, which if you go to Israel, you go to the city of David, right side of the walls, you go down the hill, and there is the Shiloach Springs, and you can actually see the water there. You can actually go and follow the path that they used to take going up to the temple. So it's really wild. It's amazing. You can really relive the experience. And they would pour this water on the altar. And the question is, what is so happy about this pouring of the water? Because they would celebrate the entire night long. The greatest rabbis, the biggest Rosh Yeshivas would come and they would celebrate. It says Rabbi Gamliel would juggle eight torches at one time. And Levi, we used to juggle 8 knives, and Abaya used to juggle eggs, and Shmuel used to juggle wine. 8 of them, at the time. And these are the great rabbis. And so if they did it today, the biggest Rosh Yeshivas were going there and doing a juggling contest. You would say, what's going on here? They're not teaching Torah, they're teaching juggling, and it wasn't the average people juggling. So what was the celebration about? So you have to understand what this is, the joy of it. So the joy is basically as follows. Now, people sometimes need an external stimulus to feel happy. And wine is a good one for it. People get drunk, they drink wine, on Purim, they get drunk. And something happens to you externally, and that's why people do these things. And, and they do other things too, to try and go places, travel places, do this, do that. There's nothing wrong with that. Hey, anything that makes you happy, good. But that's an external stimulus. And when something comes external, the problem is that also it can not be there at times because it's external to you. Water, I never heard anybody say, I was really depressed. You know what I did last night? I went out to the bar and I had 8 cups of water and I got so smashed I went straight to sleep. It just doesn't happen. It's just not, I hear it, it just doesn't, because water is just life. It's just plain. It's nothing external, nothing separate. So that is in a certain way the happiness of Sukkos. Sukkos is, can you be happy just with life itself? Do you have to have something happen to you to be happy? or can you just be happy with what you with life itself? There's a great story the Rabbi YY says, and I'll repeat it. It's he says he read it and he printed it up because it was such a neat story. There was some high school, I think it was junior high school in Chicago, and they had the teacher gave them an assignment. They should, while they were in the desks, they should all sit down and write the 7 wonders of the world. So everybody was writing different things. One, the Grand Canyon, the other one, the Great Wall of China. Another one was writing about, I don't know, constellations and about the Empire State Building. Each one had their own things to say. And she noticed there was one girl there, a junior high school girl, and she was just sitting there. She hadn't written anything down, and the time was running out. She goes over to her, figuring she has some sort of trouble with it. She says, "Do you have any, what's your problem?" And she says, "I don't know how to answer this question." She says, "Well, the other people seem to have no problem. They come up with big things. Think of something." She says, No. My problem isn't I can't come up with something. The problem is how can I just cut it down to 7? There are so many things that are amazing miracles. So the teacher says, "Well, give me some examples." So she goes, "Well, the ability to see, and the ability to taste, and the ability to love, and the ability to feel, and the ability to touch, and the ability to hug." And the entire classroom gets extremely silent because she's right. I mean, life itself is a fantastic thing. If you can drink water and get drunk on water, on life itself, then you have really a life, a happiness that can't be taken away from you. Other happinesses can come and go, but life itself, to be happy, because it just is. And that is certain way what all of Sukkot is all about. Sukkot is a celebration of the fact that, just who we are. Not because we're fantastic or great or did anything or anything else. The fact that we are Jews. I'll say it in another way. There's a story about the Baal Shem Tov. The Baal Shem Tov once made a sukkah, and he made a sukkah with every kind of problem possible in that sukkah. Sukkah is an interesting halacha. So if you learn this halachas of sukkah, they talk to you about it. Most time, it tells you how to do things and so forth. And sukkahs, it always tells you all sorts of things that if it didn't do it quite right, it's still okay. Like, for example, you can have 4 walls, but you can get by with 3 and actually even 2 with a little bit. Or you can have a wall that goes up and not necessarily perfectly straight. If it's bent a little bit on the top, it can be good too. How much? A certain amount. It's called the Choma Dofik, a bent wall. It's how they make the sukkah out of their car with a moonroof, because the car walls are considered to be like walls, and then there's a bent roof, and then you have this opening on the top, and you just throw some schach over it, and you've got a sukkah. So it's a really fascinating little law, it lets you have all these other things, how many holes you can have in it, everything else. The Baal Shem Tov made a sukkah, had every problem in the world, and the rabbis wanted to puzzle it because they looked at it and said, it's like, I don't think it's good anymore. It's got so many problems, it's not good. And the Baal Shem Tov put his head down on the ground and on his shoulder, and then he lifted up his hand, and there was a note inside of it. And the note was signed by an angel called Makat, which is the highest of all the angels. Some of them don't even say his name. And it says the sukkah of the Baal Shem Tov is kosher. So they figured that heaven seems to like his sukkah. The question is, why did he do this? Why did he make the sukkah this way? Because he wanted to make every Jew feel desirable. And that's Shalom Meshudras is the theme of this year. It's making everybody feel desirable. Yes, that's that's our chalachta for this year. That every Jew is wanted just because of who they are, because they just are a Jew. And that themselves is something to celebrate. Not necessarily whether you did something good or didn't do something good or how great you served and how this or how something. It's just because of your essential characteristic. Every Jew has to feel comfortable in the Baal Shem Tov sukkah. Baal Shem Tov made a sukkah so that everybody feels like it's their sukkah and they feel comfortable in it and they feel good in it. And that is a certain theme, certainly, of Sukkos. There's at the end of Sukkos, we have this holiday called Hoshana Rabbah. Hoshana Rabbah, we take the aravos and we smash it on the ground 5 times. And it's considered like a big holiday, and the big holiday. If you're really knowledgeable, you understand that this is the great Hoshana, the great Hoshana Rabbah. And it's in fact it's so great that the rabbis made sure that it always would come out on a weekday, so that you would always be able to bang the Hoshanas. Because if it came out on Shabbos or a Yontif, it wouldn't have been possible. I'm not going to come a Yontif, but come on the Shabbos. Why? Why? So Rabbi Wire was discussing this, and he heard 2 different answers. He saw one in a book, and then the other one comes from the Lubavitcher Rebbe. The first one was from the book, and the book said, the different meaning, the different types that we have in the Elulav all symbolize a different Jew. The Esrog symbolizes the Jew that learns and does mitzvahs. The lulav is the one who learns, but isn't necessarily excelling in doing a mitzvahs. The dasim are the ones that do lots of mitzvahs, but don't necessarily superior in terms of learning. And the Erebos is the Jew that's just the Jew. He doesn't have any of these things. And the question is why we need all 4 types together in order to have a kosher lulav. What is the connection between the 4 things? Why do they all need to be together? I mean, they're very different, and there must be something that unites them all together. So what is the thing? So the Sefer, the Sefer said, oh, okay. Well, the Aravos is there because he's Jewish, so he has to be there too, But he might start thinking that he's a big shot, and he's been hanging around with all the Talmudi Chachamim, and he's also very important. And so on Hoshana Rabbah, we take him and we beat him on the ground to make sure he knows you just are an Aravos Jew, and you really don't belong with everyone else. So that's one perspective. The Lubavitcher Rebbe had a slightly different way of rephrasing this. He said it's very interesting. So we have to have all these 4 kinds. What is it? So sometimes you appreciate somebody because of what they do. You have a friend, and because right away you became friends with them, and they were nice, and you liked them very much. And some people, they grow on you, and so forth. And some people, they never grow on you at all, and so forth. You might think that it's what they do for you is what makes the connection, what makes the bond, what makes the relationship. And the Rebbe says, if with the Eibishter, he just likes us, not because of what we did, not because of how much tshuva we did on Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, and not because we're such a great prayer, davener, or anything else. He likes you, just like the Baal Shem Tov. He liked every single Jew, no matter how far away he was. He liked that Jew. He likes that person. He wants that person. He wants that because I made you, and I made you the way you are, and I love you, and I love you with all of your positive traits and all of your things that you think are not bad. And this is an important lesson, because sometimes we look at ourselves and we think of ourselves as not worthy or not necessarily deserving, or we're not very proud of some of the things that we've done in our lives. And the Eibishter says on Hoshana Rabbah, I don't care. I just like you. I like you and all of your everything. I like you. I connect to you. Shlomo Carlebach, I mentioned him at the beginning, has an interesting story. He was traveling in Germany. Shlomo Carlebach, he spoke perfect German because his father was a big rabbi in Germany, in Aachen. And Shlomo Carlebach knew German very well too. And he was also a German Jew. And he was traveling, and he came to the city of Düsseldorf. And one night he was traveling in Düsseldorf, and he was walking through the main part of the town, near the bars. And out comes stumbling out of this bar, this man, completely drunk. And he looks at Shlomo Carlebach, the guy with the yarmulke and the beard and the tzitzis and everything. And he goes, you a Jew? And Shlomo says, yes, I am Jewish. And the guy says back to him, he says, no, and ich bin euch a Judah. And I also am a Jew, he says. And he says, but I'm a different kind of Jew than you. You see, let me tell you my story. See, my parents were, I was born right before the Holocaust. And my parents could sense what was happening. And so they put me up with a Christian family. and they never came back after the war. So I was raised as a Christian, and I didn't know anything about Judaism. And in fact, I've never done anything Jewish in my entire life, as far as I know. He says that not only have I never done anything Jewish, and he's really drunk. He says, I don't think I've ever even done anything good in my entire life. And he tells this to Shlomo Carlebach, and he says, Ich bin der ärgste Jidin in the ganzen Welt. I am the worst Jew in the entire world. And then he raises his hands to the heaven. He says, Aber ich bin doch a Jude, but I am definitely Jewish. Shlomo Carlebach really liked this story because he said, many people talk about the great rabbis that they met and the big and the lessons that they learned and the important people that they met. And I am proud that I met the very worst Jew in the world, but he's proud to be a Jew. And that captures a little bit of the idea of the unity of Sukkos, the joy of Sukkos, and the joy that we have as being a Jew. We can be happy.
It's a miracle. It's a miracle that man even knew that he was Jewish if he was raised by Christians, but they probably told him.
Yep.
It's
the happiness and the joy is like water. It's life itself. It's Sukkos itself. It's the unity of self. It's not about necessarily how great we are, or anything else that we've done and so forth. It's that we have a God, we are Jewish, and we have this ability, we have a tremendous Jewish soul inside of ourselves. And that's one of the reasons I go out on Sukkos and so forth, because you get to actually connect with that level of Judaism out there. For Jews who are, they tell you up front, I did this as a little kid 70 years ago. 70 years ago. I haven't done anything Jewish since then. And they start remembering, and they're smiling, and they're happy, and they're making the blessing. And you're going, this is really amazing, that they're like, they come alive, and they're so thankful, that you gave them the opportunity to be able to do a mitzvah, to bless the lulav and the esrog. I'll finish this with I guess we started a little bit late, and should I keep it short, or should I add one more thing?
You can do whatever you want.
I can do whatever I want.
You're not going to talk about what you did today.
I did. I did.
Why did I miss it? I'm sorry.
I was going out, and I was doing psoyim. I was having people bless, make a bracha on the lulav and esrog, and I said, "You bless it, and God blesses you back." So and when He blesses powerfully. So you may want to take care of this opportunity. No, I don't want to feel like it. I'm busy. I tried. I didn't beat anybody over the head. If they said no. But. They felt uncomfortable, whatever they were, and so forth. But but many did, and it looked like a meshugana, because I make them. They said, "Hey, somebody made me do this," but they didn't make me shake like this. 3 times to the left, 3 times to the right, 3 times forward, 3 times up, 3 times down. But I make them do it all. Because of what? So here's the thing. I don't know if you know this. I'll just give a little brief piece of it, and so forth. So I was listening to Rabbi Yossi Jacobson. He has a fantastic talk for this last Tuesday for the women's shir. And there's a lot of points in it. And so I'm just going to give one out of it. So he was talking about this idea of the lulav and the esrog, and the meaning, the symbolism inside of it. And he was mentioning that, actually there is an opinion, Rabbi Abba, that it says that you're supposed to take a beautiful fruit. That's how they refer to the esrog, pre-Eitz Hadar. And he asked the class, he said, where else in Chumash do you have a beautiful fruit? Somebody saw a fruit and said, wow, that's beautiful, gotta have it. Sorry, yeah, you've got an answer. Go ahead, you can unmute yourself.
With Adam and Chava,
right? Chava. Very good. Excellent. Yeah, Chava said. It talks about a beautiful fruit. So the rabbis are sensitive to this, and they say if it talks about it in the same way, maybe there's a connection. So Rabbi Abba says, yeah, exactly. There is an opinion that what the fruit that they had in Gan Eden was an esrog fruit. Why? So the proof, they bring a proof, interesting proof, which is that it's one of the reasons that we know about the esrog is this pre-Eitz Hadar is because it says that of all the trees in the Garden of Eden, God says you can eat any of them except for the tree of Tov V'Ra. The tree. He says, don't eat the tree. We don't eat a tree. Eat the fruit of the tree. Why didn't he say the fruit of the tree? He says not don't eat the tree. So the esrog, I don't know if you've ever opened it up, but it's got a very thick rind. And they tell us that the thick rind of that esrog actually tastes very much like the bark of the esrog tree. And it's the only tree that actually where the tree itself tastes like the esrog, like the fruit of the tree. So that's one of the proof. And actually, also one of the Rambam says that the Hadar is Hebrew. Esrog means the same thing: beautiful, desirable. So esrog means desirable. So that's what we eat. We eat it's an Aramaic term for desirable. So we know that the esrog is this particular fruit. So, but what's the connection? What's and there's a difference between them. They were told not to eat it. Okay, we don't eat it either. That's true. But were they happy when they ate it? Were they proud? Because we're supposed to take the Hadar, the tree, and we're supposed to dance in front of Hashem, celebrate in front of Hashem. And they went and they hid from Hashem when they ate it. There's a difference there. What's what happened there? So here's the thing. All of the fruits, all the things that are mentioned about the different of the four species, each one of them make a sequence. You got the fruit with the esrog. You got the leaves, the lulav. You got the branches with the myrtle. And then when it talks about the willow, it says it's the willow of the river. It doesn't have to be by a river. It doesn't. It's just an indication that a lot of them do grow by the river, but it's a river willow and so forth. They got water basically in the picture. So there's this pattern here. Start with the fruit, you move away from the fruit, you start going to the leaves, then you start moving further away, you get down the branches, the root, the trunk, and then eventually you get all the way down to the water. So we're moving further and further back to the source of where all this tree came from. The mistake that Chava and Adam made was the following. God told them, I have one tree in this, don't eat it. Everything else you can take pleasure, desire, have rapture with it. Enjoy the world. It's yours to enjoy. Just always remember that water also has a source where it comes from. It comes from me. And as a sign so that you always remember it, in Gan Eden, you should always know that I am the one who made this whole Gan Eden. I made this whole desirable place. I'm here. Don't ever detach that. Don't ever lose track of that. Remember that there's a God in all of this who's behind all of the wonderful things in the world. Adam and Chava said, I need that in my control too. I can't rely on Hashem. I can't put my trust in Hashem. I got to have that also. If I don't have that, my life isn't complete. And that's where they made the mistake. They made the mistake in basically detaching themselves and their lives from Hashem. When we take the lulav, the esrog, and so forth, we're saying we're going to celebrate with Hashem in front of Hashem. We're not going to be afraid. We're not going to cut off ourselves. We're not going to detach. We're not going to hide from Hashem. We're going to be together with Hashem. That togetherness, that unity, that's what brings the pleasure into all the other pieces into the world. When you go into a farm, you get to see a little bit of how all the wonderful things in the farm that grow all are connected to God. They all come from water, they come from the earth, and God is connected with it. And food from the farm is always healthy and good. It's what we cut it off and we make black and whites. And what else don't you like? Because what's unhealthy? Orange popsicles and babka, and that's when we get into trouble. we're city dwellers and we forget, the food is really all always coming, even if we make a blessing on it, we sometimes forget the creator in all of this, in the source of all the food. On Sukkos, we don't forget. We go back into a Gan Eden like situation. We go into the Sukkah. We rely on Hashem to protect us, the walls, the roof, everything else. He's in charge. He's in control. We even shake the lulav and esrog in there. All of it is in order to reattach ourselves mentally and with actions to realize, you know what, God, you're really in charge of all of this. I can't protect myself. No matter what I try and do, I can't take over your tree. You are the source of all of the good and the bad in this world and so forth. And that is the happiness of Sukkot. That is one of the joys of Sukkot, is realizing, you know what, refixing that problem that happened with all of the pain and all of the anxiety and all the trauma all came about from this idea that somehow we need to be in charge and control and run Gan Eden and run all parts of Gan Eden. And it's not true. We can't do it, and we can't really we really can't master even our own lives. So we're partners with Hashem. We're together with Hashem, and Sukkot is about reconnecting in that kind of way, and that makes us happy. And with that, I think I did run out my time, and I'll turn over my rest of the class to the happiness creator here, and hopefully our online audience will like this.
Hello. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. I'm going to keep mine brief because, I'll keep it brief. And I want to say welcome everybody. And I'll start with the three things that I always say. Number one, we're in extraordinary times. The Robert Rebbe, who was never wrong about any public prediction, told us that we are in the unfolding of the redemption, and to keep our eyes open and to look out for it, and to watch out for it. And number two, our souls were chosen to be in this incredible era. Because we each have a job to fulfill in this era. And three, we were given the tools that we need. We were given our guidebook, which is the Torah, and we were given our power tools, which are the mitzvahs. And finally, what we're doing tonight, learning about the redemption, is the Rebbe said is the fastest way to speed it up, the most guaranteed way to speed it up. So I'm just going to go and do a couple little things about Sukkot. Number one, what we do in elementary school. We talk about the walls, and we talk about what are the least amount of walls that you need for a sukkah. Anybody know?
Your husband sort of.
Yeah, 2 and a little bit. Exactly. Yeah, he said it. 2 and a little bit. You need at least 2 and a little bit. And as we explained it, I explained it this way to first graders, but it's true for all of us. It's a lesson for all of us. Why? Because you have to have one wall here. You have to have one wall, and then how am I going to get? I have to go like this, and like this. 1, 2, and a little bit, because the walls of the sukkah are Hashem hugging us. That's what it is, and so we need, for a good hug, you need at least one side, 2 sides, and a little bit. A 4 is a great hug. 3 is a good hug. But the least you need is 2 and a little bit. So, but I have to ask a question. What is so special about a hug? Why do we, what is so special about a hug? So we know that people can express affection and love in many ways. They can express it with a look, they can express it with a kiss, and they can express it with a hug. And but when you give somebody a look, then you're what do you see? You're seeing the person's face. When you give a person a kiss, you're also seeing the person's face. But when you give a person a hug, you don't see the person's face. You wrap your arms around them, and you don't look at their face at all. You're hugging their back. That's literally what you're doing. So when we say that the sukkah represents Hashem's love for us and Hashem's hug for us, we're saying that what is Hashem hugging? Hashem is not hugging the way we present ourselves to the world. He's not hugging our face. He's not kissing our face. He's not giving us a gaze. He's hugging our back. He's hugging even he's hugging us all together. And he's hugging even those parts of ourselves that we don't even know about, the part of ourselves that we don't see, our back. Because Hashem loves every single part of us. And it's a statement that he loves all of us, not because we're cute, not because we're smart, but simply because he loves us. So I want to segue into the next thing. The Rebbe was talking in a sicha, in a talk in 1991, 1992, about the phenomenon that we are the chosen people. As we know, around the world in all different languages, people call the Jews, or the Jews are at least referred to as the chosen people. But what does it mean? And the Rebbe explained, and it's very interesting. It's not what we think. What part of us was chosen? So most of us would say that our neshamas were chosen, our souls were chosen, but our souls were not chosen. Our souls preceded creation entirely. The Jewish souls preceded everything, and Hashem consulted with the Jewish neshamas, the Jewish souls, about whether or not to make creation, whether or not what they thought of his plan, and would they help him. And when they said, yes, we like your plan, and yes, we will help you, that's when Hashem made creation. So what does it mean that we're chosen? It's not referring to the neshamas, because the neshamas preceded creation. What is chosen? And so the Rebbe explains, sorry. The Rebbe explains that, true choice is often misunderstood. True choice is if you offered me an apple and an orange, and said choose, and I took the orange because I prefer the flavor to the apple, it's not choice. My preference is ruling me. It's not me choosing. It's my preference that's saying, hey, you like that, take that. It's not. So you can see it's my preference, but it's not really my choice. Choice is only the idea of true choice is when you have an absolutely even decision. You have two things that are pretty much identical in every way, and you choose one of them. You just for irrational reasons, this is the one I'm going to take. So if it says we're the chosen people, what part of ourselves did Hashem choose? He chose the part of us that is identical with everybody else in the world. In Hebrew it's called in Torah Hebrew it's called the chumrius, the most basic part of our physical being, even like the earthiness, the atoms, the cells, the earthiness of us. That's what Hashem chose. And why? Why did he choose that? Why is that how we're chosen? Why would Hashem be interested in that? Why does he choose that? And because when Hashem chose the Jewish people, it was not for a rational reason. It was not for, they do these things they're serving me so nicely. They do this, or they eat kosher. It's not for any of those things, because then the choice would be predicated on our behavior. If we don't do it, maybe Hashem wanted to choose us on the most basic level that has nothing to do with what we do. It's the most basic level of who we are. And when a person chooses, he chose that level where he there was no X, Y, and Z why he chose us. He chose us simply because this is his choice. He's choosing us. So no matter what we do, he's already chosen us at such a basic level that there's nothing we can do to separate from him. So I'm going to make it clear in a minute. So 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 he was saying, this is mine. These are mine. These cells, this earthiness of the Jews, this is mine. Why? Simply because, not because we have any qualities, not because anything distinguished us, but because he's saying, this, I choose you simply because you're mine. You are mine. I'm making you mine. Now, I was thinking about, I'm thinking we're his at a level beyond our qualities, at the most essential level. So I was thinking, where does a person have choice in life? You know, we don't make our preferences rule us all the time. It's not the idea of choice. We don't choose. Also, we don't choose our parents. We don't choose our siblings. We don't choose. If you're lucky enough to have kids, you don't choose your children. Nothing is you don't choose any of those things. Where is choice? And I was thinking the only thing that I can think of, and maybe there are more things, but the only thing I can think of the closest to the analogy of Hashem choosing us is the analogy of a spouse choosing a person choosing a spouse. And when a person chooses a spouse, they think, in the more superficial levels of the brain, you think you're choosing this person because, oh, they're so nice, and I like the way they dress, I like what they do, I like how they talk, I like how they walk, whatever it is that you're choosing. But that's not why a person chooses a spouse. The reason a person chooses a spouse is because there's a subconscious feeling that this is mine. And that's exactly how Hashem chose the Jews. There's a way, way, way deeper than any rational reason. I'm choosing these people because they are mine. And the love between Hashem and the Jews is very much compared to the love of a husband and a wife. It's an essential thing just because we're his. So I want to end by just saying that there's two things that uh, 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 I want to, what Yehezkel Shimon said about the importance of being in love simply with life is very, very true. Last night I was like totally upside down. I woke up at 3 in the morning. And since I woke up at 3 in the morning and I couldn't go back to bed, I went through all the problems of the day before. And it was a very difficult night. And then I went to school. I had a lot of things that I was critical about myself about, that I was critical about somebody else about. I had an encounter that I wasn't too happy with. And then when I got to school, I said, oh, what the heck? Let's just be happy. Let's just enjoy everything that exists. Shalom Yudas, if you made a mistake, I'm not sure you made a mistake, but if you made a mistake, that's life. You're a human being. You make mistakes. And the other person, if they made a mistake, that's life. We're human beings. So a person has to be just simply, in love with life, in love with just the simple things of life. And secondly, a person has to love themselves. That accept a person has to accept themselves with all their foibles, and that also leads to tremendous happiness. And I think without loving yourself and without loving life, it's very hard. It's very hard to be happy. So Hashem wants us to be happy, and so I give everybody a blessing that we love Hashem, love ourselves, and love life, and love every other Jew, and love the whole thing. Anyway, so I'm going to get off I'm going to end the class now, and I'm happy to take any questions.